are live. It is episode number 148 of Empire State of Baseball, airing on Instagram, X, and YouTube. And as always, powered by StreamYard. And gentlemen, a little bit of a technical difficulty to kick things off. Wasn't even hearing my own theme song, but we're back on this Monday, November the 17th, 2025. What's going on, guys? Corey, Joe, Tom in the building.
Rich,
And,
I gotta get ahead of this here. I'll say this: our guy Rich does throughout the year a fantastic job with graphics and images. Considering he basically has not just an elementary school education in that and graphic design, basically an elementary school education in general. This opening graphic is horrendous, Rich. This is so.
What are we talking about?
They look like fucking South Park characters. Like it looks bad. And it, I don't think.
Yeah, sure. You look Canadian.
Let's say like the Canadians in South Park.
I love it. That looks like Rich, especially. He actually kind of has the Saddam smile from South Park a little bit. It's bad. It's really bad. And you do a great job normally. And I think you should be applauded for that. But just this is not your best effort.
I love it, man. I think this is 100% one of my best works. And don't worry, Corey, Joe, and Keith got their own piece of this graphic tomorrow because we're going back-to-back nights. But Corey, Favs, I know today you and Joe are going to be taking a little bit more of a backseat for today's editions of the off-season agenda. But my favorite, and I'm pretty sure your favorite episode of the entire ESP calendar.
I agree. I couldn't agree more because there's a lot that goes in to this set of episodes. Obviously, we start putting these agendas together. We start talking and prepping for it 2 or 3 weeks in advance of the show itself. And then we take the week or two after that to start putting everything together, running through numbers, all that fun stuff, a lot of research. Then every once in a while, you get the early free agent move or trade that blows up an entire plan and have to redo it last minute. Thankfully, so far, it's been a relatively quiet start to the free agency period. I know Naylor, the biggest name off the books yesterday, going back to Seattle. But thankfully, outside of that, it's been quiet thus far with the big stars. So haven't had to redo much, which is
the
always
good thing is none of us had Josh Naylor as part of our plan, so none of us had to scrap a big part of what we were doing to. Rich, I'm sorry, you really wanted to sign Josh Naylor.
That was a damn shame. That was a graphic that was created for today, and that whole thing screwed up our plan. Naylor, never even heard. 5 years, $92.5 million to Josh Naylor to return to the Seattle Mariners. Now, folks in the chat, I'm going to shout out a few of your comments here. I know there's a bit of a confusion because there's double video streaming right now going on YouTube. So there's currently been a feature. I'll give you a little bit of behind the scenes right now. StreamYard has just launched a new feature for those that are looking to watch the show on your phone. Well, there's now a more vertical view, so it's better. It's an easily viewable show if you're watching on an iPhone. But obviously, if you're watching the desktop version, that's also available as well. So there's 2 streams depending on what device you're watching. If you're watching at home on a laptop, we definitely prefer the widescreen as always. But if you're watching on your phone and you want a little bit more of an easier look here, you can go check out the vertical feature that StreamYard just launched. We got new features here, Joe.
Look at that.
Yes, we do. We'll see how it goes. I think it was more meant for Instagram, but it's going to be on YouTube as well. So we'll see how that goes. We don't want to cannibalize the feeds, but I think it all goes back to the same source.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll figure it all out. Again, it's a brand new feature that we are testing today in our first episode of the off-season series. And the off-season series, by the way, for those who were here last year, and a lot of you were, the off-season series is a different vibe than what we do during the regular season. There's not many recurring segments. There's no Empire Express. There's no games, no book it. So we're keeping it just concise to a couple of topics at hand throughout each episode. We're going to be on a tri-weekly schedule, except for this week, because this week we have our off-season agendas, and instead of doing one episode for both teams, we actually split this up into 2 episodes. So tonight's episode of Empire State of Baseball will be dedicated to the Yankees off-season agenda, which is essentially your rundown brought to you by
Roback. We are heading into the holiday season, and nothing goes better underneath that Christmas tree or whatever holidays you celebrate, then some Roback. Now, listen, there's a promo code on the screen that I told Rich is not active currently, but Rich doesn't read his text messages. And that's because Roback is currently running their Black Friday sale. So no promo code, but they do have 20% off everything just for that sale. So no promo code needed. Head over to roback.com, stock up on gifts for some loved ones, maybe some things for yourself. And then once we get through Cyber Monday, code will be active again. Again, Roback is just, they're continuing to grow in just kind of more of the comfort area. So not just your polos and that kind of stuff. Some sweaters, I got the Q-zip on there for Richard. Some other warmer things, sweatshirts, sweatpants, that kind of stuff. If you're looking for it this holiday season, head over to roback.com.
And you heard the guy. So code is not needed. It is Black Friday season. It is turkey season. I know a few of you guys probably not going to be happy with what I did over this past weekend. I put up my Christmas tree. Disrespecting the turkey.
No,
so early.
What are we doing
probably
here?
setting a personal record
Disrespecting the bird.
for the earliest Christmas tree put up as a member of the Rivera family.
What are we doing here?
It's disrespectful.
This isn't Norway.
I mean, listen, man, bro, fall decorations. We already did this. We've done this for September and October. Let's move on to the next thing. I'm ready.
Still leaves.
Yeah, there is the next thing. It's called Thanksgiving. It's America's greatest holiday.
There's still leaves on the trees.
I haven't
thrown out my pumpkin.
That's your problem. There's better decorations. There's a lot of deer around the area I'm going to feed with those pumpkins that I still have outside. But trust me, it was time to get the Christmas decorations up. Listen, Joe and Corey, you guys of all people know how busy it's going to get during this time of the year. I need to take advantage of a free weekend, and I had a free weekend.
Rich, I got to stop you there. You cannot
cut down my tree, so I don't buy my tree from Walmart, so I cut it down. So I can't, if I put a tree up this weekend, my house is probably going to catch on fire by December 7th. So Rich, I can't do that.
Also, how dare you talk to Joe and I about being busy on the weekends? Oh, I'm so sorry. You're so busy with just nothing going on in your goddamn life.
Oh,
nice.
He's wedding planning, all right?
It was one day, and this is it. That's it. I'm screwed for the rest of this. The rest of the calendar.
He's sitting there playing Mariah Carey right now, and
I will say I compromised with my wife because I was always growing up. I was like a December 1st guy. She was a November 1st woman. So we met in the middle of Black Friday. So it's Black Friday. Decorations go up.
Here's the right. I do this with my wife. We drive down to Delaware this year, notwithstanding, because we got the baby. We drive down Delaware to my aunt's house. On the way to my aunt's house, no Christmas music. On the way home from my aunt's house, nothing but Christmas music.
That's fine. I like that.
After Thanksgiving dinner, it's fair game. Before
I like that.
No, before my turkey is cut, no Christmas music.
So, good question for the chat as we'll actually move into the baseball portion of the show. Chat, when do you start listening to Christmas music? Let's hear your answers here. I want to hear a date. I want to see dates up here, legitimate dates of when we get started. But let's take a look.
Thanksgiving Day.
Let's take a look at the chat. I actually haven't started playing Christmas music. I'm only a tree up so far. All right, so here we go. Joey's in the building. Joe Bag of Donuts. I agree with Rich. Probably not in this regard though. Big Slicks in the building as well. Says Joe doesn't know ball. He dropped it at 10:45 this morning. Mike Pars also like and subscribe. Corey Favs keeping the lights on. I can't tell you who will sign with the Yankees, but I can tell you it won't be Josh Naylor. He's absolutely right there. ESPNYY checking in. We got Hector's in the building. We got Jacob again. Rich going to be mediating between Joe and Tom tonight. I don't know if there's going to be a lot of mediating between Joe and Tom, unless Tom's off-season plan is absolutely atrocious. Shout out to our subscriber of the year, Hitman, in the building. What's good, Hitman? Joe, let the roster building begin. Name that media goes, great sunglasses. I got to say, there you go, Tom. You don't get a lot of compliments from the chat, and there's one right there. Look at you.
Care less. Appreciate it.
Chris.
Don't need it,
shout out to our guy, Chris. And then here comes the Christmas commenters. Tuning in from India. It's 6:36 over here. Shout out to CK, our guy CK. Jack Esposito, love that, Rich. So did I. SMH Justice for eating Thanksgiving. Shout out to Joe. Thanksgiving is the most disrespected winter holiday by far, and very Canadian of you, Rich. Shout out to Name That Media. So looking forward to seeing your Christmas music answers to my question. All righty. Now, Tom is going to kick things off with his off-season agenda for the New York Yankees. And again, if you weren't with us last year, The way we always like to present this is if you were sitting in the front office chair, what decisions would you make if it was up to you? This is not a prediction episode. We are not sitting here and predicting how the Yankees are going to guide their offseason. So I wouldn't say maybe sit in the chair, but if you had to present a plan to the Yankees brass, whether it's Cashman, Howe, whatever, what plan would you present ahead of all of this nonsense starting we call the offseason? And technically it's already started because Ryan Yarbrough had penned the deal today, which then had to switch up a couple of plans again. That's happened multiple times over the last couple of weeks. But we'll get into it. It is going to be time for our offseason agenda. Another question I typically get is how do you calculate all this, Rich? Because your number is a little bit different from the Spotrac number. And Spotrac, shout out to Spotrac. They do a lot. They do a lot of great work. They have it out there listed as 263. Now, if you've been listening to me on a Bronx Take, I listed a number that's more closer to 246.60. And that math I pulled together by adding that sum of that luxury tax column, that green column, which is each line of each player that hits the luxury tax at a certain number. You see a Judge at the top at 40, Gerrit Cole at 36, yada, yada, yada. Then you add the retained salaries because that has to be included as well. The retained salaries of the Yankees is $18 million in this regard. You add all that up, you get to a number that's close to 248, which is not the 263. And I think one difference we saw here, Joe, and I know we were talking about this, was a line item that they call player benefits, which, again, it's estimated. It's not guaranteed. We don't really know what's going into that player benefits, how that number is generating. And so for the sake of the exercise, for the sake of having fun, which is the number one thing out of this whole thing, that player benefits is kind of getting tossed out. And we're respecting the number that we kind of calculated here, or well, I calculated for both our offseason agendas.
Yeah, it's so Fangraphs and Spotrac have basically a buffer. It's a guesstimate. It's based on benefits for travel, for health insurance, for a lot of things that they don't know what the actual number is. So they put it, and it's a rolling calculation. If you go on Fangraphs, they basically increase it every year by 500,000 and call it a day. So it's not an actual number based on fact. We're just looking at the players, the payroll that the luxury tax hit. Remember, luxury tax is not their payroll salary, right? So a guy like Ohtani, with all the deferrals, Ohtani is making $2 million in payroll. His luxury tax hit this year is $35 million because the total value of his contract for a year is $70 million, right? It's deferred over 20 years. So they incur a $35 million luxury tax for the 20 years of the lifespan of the contract. That's what's same thing with Max Fried. Max Fried's payroll number, I think, is 12.5 this year. His luxury tax number, regardless of anything, is $27.25 million. Stanton, the Marlins are kicking in money, I believe, starting this year. His luxury tax number is still $22 million, even though the Yankees are paying, I think it's $18 million or so this year. So that's the luxury tax for the CBA's concern is the only number that matters when we're looking at these payrolls for the next few shows.
Yep, that's how we're working it. The number I came up with the Yankees at the end of it was 248.90, and that is after the Yarbrough signing. So with that, Tom, now from this point on, with the Yankees' current roster, how do you plan on fixing the New York Yankees? Thomas, take it away with a beautiful graphic to start.
Yeah, so really oh God, this is terrible. Take this off. So I wanted to come up with a bit of a philosophy for my team, the Yankees, going forward as I'm the president of baseball operations. And that is I want everyone on my team to do something great. I need an aspect of your game that is great. Now, if you're an everyday player, that's got to be a big thing. You have to have power, hitting for average, a great defender, something along those lines. If you're a platoon guy, yeah, maybe it just you hit lefties well. Maybe just you're really good at defense, and you're hitting really lax, but you're in there for a defensive kind of position. So with that in mind, my goal was I want everyone on my team, again, especially my big contributors, to contribute something great to the team. And I think the biggest thing that Yankee fans have been clamoring for years, other than a left fielder, which is also kind of checks that box, is a true leadoff hitter. They need someone who can get on in front of Judge, see pitches, hit for a higher average, especially with Judge behind you. You're going to be getting pitches to hit. You're not going to walk a lot up there ahead of Judge. So you need someone with a good contact bat. Really nice if he plays a good left field too. And I'm not proposing something that no one has come up with before. So my first move, Rich, is to trade for Steven Kwan. And again, this isn't groundbreaking. A bunch of people have thrown this out there. Just kind of depends what the package might be. And this is the package that I put together for Steven Kwan, which I wanted to also make sure that my package wasn't underselling. I think a lot of times you see trades, and Yankee Twitter is infamous for this, of the joke of like, oh, you get Miguel Andujar and Clint Frazier, and that's all you get. So what am I trading for Steven Kwan? I guess the headliner, the biggest name in the trade, at least, is Spencer Jones, the Yankees outfield prospect who was very hot at the beginning of last year, cooled off towards the end, but a big power bat, potentially, he's been compared to Judge, which probably isn't fair to him, but a big-time power bat, plays the outfield, can play some first base as well. He's, I guess, kind of the headliner of this deal. I also have Will Warren in the deal. I know he wasn't necessarily incredible last year, but he is still a young, controllable pitcher, which is something that Cleveland is always interested in. And he's obviously major league ready. So he's someone that if Cleveland has a need in their rotation right away, Will Warren can step in and kind of fill that. And I also included Ben Hess, one of the Yankees pitching prospects. There was an article that was out earlier, I think last week, where it was the top trade targets of the offseason. And it was Steven Kwan was on there, and a bunch of other guys. Scuba was on there, and one of the write-ups was Yankees pitching prospects, because the Yankees, as we've been talking about, have put out really quality pitching over the last, I don't know, half decade at least. Of again, not necessarily Cy Young winners, but really good, dependable arms. And we're trading all of that for 2 years of Steven Kwan. Steven Kwan will be a free agent after next year. He is one of the best, just kind of pure contact hitters in the game, a real pesky hitter, long at bats, plays a really good defense as well in left field. So that is kind of the big move I think Yankee fans would love to see happen. Is Cleveland going to trade him? I don't know. They're so weird. They kind of paid Jose Ramirez. They paid him way under his market value. Jose Ramirez seems happy there. But they don't tend to give out a lot of money. They're always looking for pitching. And I think, frankly, with something that they've always needed is offense, is power. And Spencer Jones does provide that power. Now, can they, does he need to work on some things? Absolutely. But he has one thing you really can't teach is that power part. And I think that really could help Cleveland. And I think this is a pretty fair trade for Kwan. So that's my first offseason move. That gives me my leadoff hitter, my left fielder. So I guess we'll move on to my second move. And Rich is going to throw that up here. And that is the Yankees going out and signing JT Realmuto from the Philadelphia Phillies.
There you go, Swift.
There we go, Swift. Listen, Austin Wells was truly, he has had some very promising moments with the Yankees offensively. He's had some very bad moments offensively or just generally with the team. Grading, if you look at some of the advanced metrics, there are things that he does grade out well, and others he doesn't grade out quite as well. And I think what the Yankees could really use is a true veteran behind the plate. And something I really do value is guys who have won and who have kind of have proven track records. Now, I know the Phillies haven't won a World Series with Realmuto, but I think he's probably just about as respected as a catcher is in the game. I had the Yankees signing him 2 years, $30 million to be our primary catcher. I still have Wells on the team as he's lefty, so he's got to definitely see at bats. He's not going to straight platoon, because then if that was the case, he would obviously be playing a lot more than Realmuto. But he'll see mostly righties. He struggled a lot with lefties, so we're just going to take that out of his game. I think he could really use a guy like Rio Muto ahead of him. He was with Jose Trevino, who was a bit of a journeyman. Grant Trevino won a platinum glove, and I'm sure Wells learned a lot from him. But I think Rio Muto, just kind of his status and stature in the game, is going to be very beneficial for an Austin Wells. And get him for 2 years. That doesn't mean Austin Wells is thrown in the trash and you're just forgetting about him. But I think Rio Muto is a guy, again, handles the pitching staff well. He's had such a star-studded pitching staff in Philly. He's been dependable, and he's someone I think could just bring a little bit more consistency to the Yankees lineup. One of the other struggles, we were actually talking about this a little bit before the show, is the Yankees have had a lot of stat stuffing. Okay, we're jumping ahead. Rich has blown his load early. The Yankees have had a lot of just stat stuffers in their lineup. Austin Wells being a real prime example of that. Yes, he might hit 20 home runs, but in between all those home runs, he's not really contributing anything to the game. He's not giving you something that's going to help the Yankees win every day, where I think Rio Muto, might not have those hot streaks that an Austin Wells could have, but he's more consistent. And again, I think a veteran presence, which would be nice, especially with that pitching staff. Final big move, and Rich kind of previewed it here, is a move that probably is not going to happen, just because of how the Japanese players have been as of late, unless we can break that trend. I had the Yankees going after the big Japanese pitcher, Tatsuya Imai. Tatsuya Imai. I think I did a pretty good job there. I have him signing a 9-year, $198 million contract that works at the $22 million a year, giving him a lot of money, but he is definitely a younger pitcher. I think, especially with some of the uncertainty in the Yankees rotation. Listen, you're not signing Imai because Rodon and Cole might not be ready for the start of the year and all that kind of stuff. But generally, the Yankees pitching staff, Cole is older. Rodon and Fried are at their they're at the peaks of their careers. That you can only expect them to probably start coming down a little bit. Granted, you have Schlittler there, definitely on the way up, but I think Imai would provide a good middle ground of a guy. Granted, he hasn't been doing it in Major League Baseball, but he's a guy who has pitched, is entering the prime of his career, and I think could be a very nice kind of transition piece, especially, again, this is a long contract, but as a Cole, as a Fried, as Rodon leave, that he would kind of step in as being a more of a veteran, which is something I think you're looking for when you're signing such a long-term deal to a younger player. I think you look at the future a lot with something with a move like that, and I think the Yankees could use it. There's a lot of interesting offensive free agents this year. I didn't really go down that rabbit hole. You'll see I didn't re-sign Cody Bellinger, which frankly is probably what the Yankees will do, and I won't be upset about them doing it. But I think kind of in the same way of last offseason when Juan Soto was signed, and what I said at the time was the Yankees just need to go out and sign the best players they can to make up for it. One of those guys I suggested was Max Fried, and with the idea of listen, you just need to get more good players. And I think, yes, the rotation is pretty full. And what do you do with some of those guys when everyone comes back? I think it's a good problem to have. And I think there's guys who could be candidates to kick to the bullpen. Luis Heel being a big, member of that. So that's what I have as those big signings. Some other smaller moves. I do have the Yankees re-signing Paul Goldschmidt. In this, I did a lot of consideration of trading Ben Rice, which I think is something Yankees still really could and should consider. The problem is, if you trading him, it's like, what are you going after for? He's probably someone you would put in a Skubal trade. And I think the Skubal market is going to be pretty insane. And I think Ben Rice could be a big part of a trade like that, but I don't know if the Yankees want to get in those waters. I think it's going to get pretty crazy with the trade, but granted, I would still absolutely go for him if it could. But having Goldschmidt, who can platoon with Rice. Goldschmidt still really hit lefties well last year. He's a very good defender, and then he basically becomes a bit of like player coach. He's Ben Rice's buddy, and he's there to help him kind of continue to develop. I also have them going out and signing Jose Leclerc. Was hurt last year, but he, when he did pitch a few years ago, especially on that Rangers World Series run, he was very good. Someone that
he was a closer for a while.
Yeah, he was that closer. I think it's someone that he could, try to recapture that magic, which is what you're going to see a lot in the bullpens. I think Rich and I have very similar philosophies with the bullpen. Is I don't want to give out big money to relievers because look what happened to Ryan Helsley last year. Yeah, again, we don't want to open up wounds here, but when that trade was made, Corey and Joe were ecstatic. If that trade never happened and he was still good in St. Louis, and if the Mets signed him this year, you guys would have been ecstatic if he was still.
We don't have to look any closer than our own team and Devin Williams.
I know. I mean, Helsley was worse though, but still, like you just don't know. And you give out a ton of money, and I know it's worked out for the Edwin Diaz signing or kind of re-signing with the Mets last time, but they're too volatile, and I just don't want to. I'd rather give chances to a few guys with good arms than committing a ton of money to, like a big name closer, which, who knows what you're going to get. So here's what I got my lineup. Starting off with Quan in left, again, a true leadoff man, table setter in front of Aaron Judge, the big man, the MVP. I have Ben Rice hitting third, which does worry me. It is kind of going lefty, righty, lefty. So I do like that balance. And this is a big spot for Ben Rice. But if he's going to continue to profile and develop the way he has, I think this is a spot he could hit. He's going to be hitting between Judge and Stanton. Stanton, I guess, when he's healthy, because you're only going to get him for 90 games next year. Stanton, so Rice probably is also going to get some DH time in there. Then I got Jazz. Again, if you're talking about things that players do things great, Jazz, such an athletic player, steals, has power. Rio Muto. In the 6 hole, I do have Jason Dominguez in center, and I know he didn't play great in left. Here's my plan, and this might sound ridiculous, but this is a bit of a ridiculous show. If I'm the Yankees, here's what I want to do. Jason Dominguez shows up to spring training, and the Yankees say, hello, this is your new best friend. His name is Bernie Williams. He was also a Latin-born, switch-hitting outfielder, and I want Bernie Williams to just teach you everything he knows. If you want to teach him how to play guitar too, that'd be really cool. But if not, Joe's looking it up. Bernie Williams was born in Puerto Rico, Joe. So yes, he's Puerto Rican. I think someone
he was born in Mobile, Alabama.
I saw Joe look at him like, no, he's Puerto Rican. He definitely is. I think that could really help with Dominguez's development, having someone who truly was a switch hitting, Latin-born Yankee center fielder. I think he could hopefully teach him a lot, and I think that could help again with that development. And what he was still able to do last year was hit. He basically didn't play for 7 weeks last year. He came in and pinch hit in game 4, and he ripped a double, and that just kind of shows the kind of hitter he is if he can get the defense to catch up. Anyway, if we go back to the lineup real quick, as I finish that off, Brian McMahon, amazing defensive third baseman. The bat hasn't been so great, but we'll see if he, a year under the Yankee system, if he kind of improves there, finds that porch a little bit more. And then I have Caballero at short. And this is, granted, Caballero is a very good defender, and he's as good as the base stealers there is in Major League Baseball. The Yankees are stuck with Volpe. I think a move that Rich and I talked about a lot in the offseason was how could you get rid of Volpe? And you just can't. His value is so low right now. He's also hurt. So that's, you're stuck with Volpe. Volpe's going to be your shortstop once he comes back next year. I think if he has another bad year, then they could try to move off of him. But there's just realistically, I don't think a way to do that this offseason. And I think that kind of covers it. Payroll comes in just over $301 million. That's just saving about $2 million from that next luxury tax number. Now, listen, I wanted to have a little bit more money. I think you generally want to have $5 or $6 million at least, because you want to be able to make trades as you get into the the trade deadline. I think there could be some creative ways of doing that. Some, if you're some contracts, if you could save a little bit more on, structuring things with bonuses, maybe adding extra years and lowering the AAV. It's something I would do. And again, the big thing that's not in here that I think Yankees probably will do is re-sign Cody Bellinger, which I wouldn't be opposed to. I just wanted to go in a bit of a different direction. And I think this accomplishes that. And with that, I think I'm good.
Now, real quick, before I turn it over to Joe and Corey for their comments, and then I'll give you a few of my own. Chat, as we look at Tom's offseason game plan, what letter grade would you give this game plan? As you hear, highlighted by Stephen Kwan getting traded to the Yankees. The Yankees picking up Realmuto and Imai in free agency, along with Jose Leclerc. That is what Tom came up with. So you tell us, Chad, as we go over to Joe, then Corey, on their comments on Tom's offseason game plan. Joe, take it away.
Yeah, listen, as far as things that Tom has done, this isn't that bad, right? Like
it's about as good of a compliment from Joe as you could expect.
I see the direction he's going in. I disagree. The one place I disagree is I don't think the Yankees are going to be in the market for a $20+ million pitcher. I don't see it. They got so much Rodon and Cole coming back. They're going to be back this year. You have Schlittler, you have Heel. I know you traded Warren in the other one, but you have Warren. So I don't see them going out and spending another $20-something million on a starting pitcher. So for me, I think you were headed in the right direction, Tom. And I think what would have completed that is actually bringing Bellinger back instead of Imai and instead of Goldschmidt, fill in the back end of the rotation with Warren's spot with, a back end starter that's on a 1-year deal that you could dump in the bullpen, same as Yarborough, once those guys get healthy. So I give you about B, because I think you were on the right track. I think that where you went wrong was, I think the pitching isn't needed. It's needed for the first month, but it's not needed. And I think to make that lineup complete, you're missing that guy like Cody Bellinger in the middle, because I think once you get past the top 4, I think it gets very anemic towards the bottom without stark improvement from Dominguez. Dominguez, of course, could be the wild card. If he has a great offensive year, it changes the equation. I also wouldn't have brought Goldschmidt back because I think they're just going to roll with Rice at first base. So I give you a B. I like the way you went. I think you're right. Kwan is the perfect answer to the Yankee problem of the Yankees haven't had a leadoff hitter since Brett Gardner maybe was at his best, when he was kind of the leadoff hitter, kind of the second place hitter. They haven't had that kind of player. And I think that's what the Yankees need. So I like that one. I think just the latter half I would have swapped out Imai for Bellinger.
Corey?
I'm gonna go B+, I think, too. I think it's a good offseason. If I was a Yankee fan, I'd be pretty happy with the offseason that Tom put forth here. To all the points Joe mentioned, I think Stephen Kwan's a great fit. I want to touch on Realmuto too, because I think he's just such a gamer. He's a winning player. And when you're a team that's constantly finding a way in the postseason, you want a lot of guys like JT Realmuto on your team. So I know the numbers aren't there where it used to be, but still, it's a productive season for a catcher, especially one who's won consistently in the past. So I think that's a really nice pickup for the Yankees. And in the rotation, I think rotation is a little bit more of a luxury. Again, that could change depending on how long, if Cole or Rodon have a setback, TBD. But it makes it fun. I mean, pitching wins ball games. Watching my team on the other side of New York, what cost the Mets the playoffs this year? It was pitching. The pitching completely collapsed in the second half of June onwards. So you can never have enough pitching. Amai is interesting because he's such a wild card. Are you going to get a Yamamoto? Are you going to get a Sasaki? Are you going to get something in the middle? TBD. We don't know. But I think it's a very intriguing option. I also like that he's one of the younger Japanese players to come here. Some of the guys come here, they're in their 30s. What's his face with Baltimore was 36 years old or something when he signed?
Yep.
Sagano, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So Nice to get a younger arm out there. I think it's a good offseason. I'm going to give it a B plus. Also, to Joe's point, going to echo, Dominguez really is the wild card. I think this sets Dominguez up for a make or break year with his Yankee run. And then if you find yourself in a situation where, again, you're expecting to be in the playoff chase, Dominguez not looking good in center field, middle of the season, hitting okay, not killing it, I think that's when they go all in on a trade for some sort of center fielder to lock that up. But overall, I think it's a pretty good offseason.
Tom, did you just want to rebut? I don't know if you wanted to have comments for Joe and Court.
Yeah, I trust me. I hear it, and I thought about Bellinger. The problem is, I think Jason Dominguez kind of needs a role to be on this team. And granted, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But if you're bringing Bellinger in, I think you're trading Dominguez or Rice, because Bellinger in this plan, because I want Quan, Bellinger is going to be then either in center or at first. And if you're trading Dominguez or Rice, well, you're signing Bellinger, so that's a big chunk of money. Frankly, more money per year than Imai is going to get, because he's more established. It won't be as long of a deal, but it's going to be more dollar amount. So it does go over my luxury tax number anyway. But then you're also going to be trading one of those guys probably in a deal for a pretty big time player who's also going to be making kind of big time money, at the very least, big time arbitration money. So the number balloons there. Now, yes, could you not re-sign Paul Goldschmidt? Absolutely. He was kind of one of my last moves that I made. But that's only saving $7.5 million, where bringing in Bellinger, which is probably close to $30 million a year. And again, if you're going to get into that Scooble sweepstakes, which I think you can get in that sweepstakes with Dominguez and or Rice, Scooble's arbitration number, Rich and I looked it up, it's like $22 million. So you've added another $22 million. And then at that point, you kind of have nowhere to go. You could try to get rid of McMahon, but his number is like, 13? That doesn't get you there. And then I could have not re-signed Real Muto, but I wanted him. So that's where it gets a little tricky. They don't necessarily have as much flexibility if they want to stay under that 303 number, which is kind of where I landed, where I am now. Again, if they ended up signing Bellinger and some other things as well, I wouldn't be disappointed at all. I really liked Cody Bellinger, and I really wanted him. He was the first thought I had when I started this was I re-signed Cody Bellinger, and then I just realized what cascading moves would have to happen. It just didn't work the way I wanted to. I also wanted to, get creative and take some chances.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just give you my comments before we move along here, and we don't need that page up because I wanted this one up here. When it comes to your roster, I'm giving this offseason a B plus as well. Love the addition of Quan. I'll have more on that a little bit later on tonight. Spoiler alert. I had a couple of notes here. I know Paul Goldschmidt, I think you were paying Goldschmidt here, according to your number, you had him at $7.5 million for 1 year. Yeah. To essentially fulfill the role that he was, just to basically serve as a veteran presence at first base, right-handed complement to Ben Rice, serve at, again, be another guy for him to lean on. And I think you could have did that where a guy maybe $5 million cheaper, I mean, at least based on market value, and a guy like Ty France, who is a Gold Glover. And I don't know if he's going to be somebody
$5 million cheaper.
Yeah, I don't think
Ty France's market value is that low. So that could be
$2 million.
I don't think so. That's what Spotrac might have. This is where
Spotrac's got $1.7 million.
Yeah, that's a former fantasy baseball keeper.
And that's where Spotrac gets a little.
And I'm not going to say it was going to be a $2 million deal, but you could have shaved off a couple of millions of dollars on that sort of role. The biggest thing, though, and Joe kind of mentioned it with the lack of presence of Cody Bellinger here, the one thing that I get worried about when I look at a lineup like this is what's going to happen when the inevitable happens every single season. When your number 4 hitter, Giancarlo Stanton, goes down with his yearly injury. What then happens? You've moved on from Spencer Jones. So, there's not really that guy you can call up to try to give that everyday playing time to. So who's now fixed into that role? Is Goldschmidt now your starting first baseman with Rice DHing most days? Is Wells back behind the plate and Realmuto is I don't know what's supposed to be the good move there where you can kind of convince us as fans. What was that, Corey?
Volpe.
Oh, God.
I think what happens there is it's the the big positive and negative of Giancarlo Stanton. When he's on the field, he is a really great DH, but he clogs up that DH spot because he really can't play the outfield. He played a little bit last year, but you can't really count on him. If he is hurt, if he is hurt, I mean when he is hurt, because he will be hurt at some point next year, you can rotate Judge through there. You could rotate Rice through there. You could rotate Real Muto through there. You could rotate Dominguez through there. You could find guys to kind of get into that spot. Now, does that make the lineup as good? No, but it's the problem, and whatever you want to say about Giancarlo Stanton is like you have to have that roster spot for him. He can really only be dependable for a certain amount of games a year at DH, and you just hope he's healthy by the time to get to the playoffs.
The one problem again, Quan, it fits this lineup like a glove, but I think you take away one of the biggest positives of the lineup last year in Cody Bellinger. So the question I have is, when you look at this team, do you see a team that is markedly better than the 2025 team?
I think they can be. I think the pitching overall then would be better. Now, who knows exactly what you're going to get from Cole when he gets back, but a rotation that would have Cole, Fried, Rodon, Imai, and Schlittler would be as good as any rotation in Major League Baseball. Assuming health, assuming that they're pitching to, their relative back of their baseball cards. Yes, Bellinger did provide a lot. I think Quan provides just as much, just in a different way. I think like importance. I think he would be just as important to the team. You're banking on a more dependable catcher, a more consistent catcher. You're then also, what you need is that next step up from Jason Dominguez and from a Ben Rice, who both offensively are very major league ready. Defensively, they've had some question marks, but again, Dominguez hit really well last year. He lost his playing time because his defense wasn't great, and Trent Grisham decided to hit 30 homers.
Do you trust the bullpen you built?
I trust it as much as I can trust the bullpen. Again, I trust Bednar, and I think we did see, especially at the end, enough from Doval that I can have trust in him. If everyone is healthy in the rotation, that kicks Yarborough to the bullpen. That also would kick Heel to the bullpen. Plus Leclerc, again, like relievers are lottery tickets. You're trying to just get lucky with some of them. And I think there's enough live arms that you can do that. And maybe they're all bad, but the Yankees have also done well with developing.
But this is also why we have a trade deadline in the middle of the year. So I mean, if I'm looking at this bullpen compared to the bullpen that was out there on opening day of 2025, this is not too far removed from that sort of bullpen. Yeah, we were expecting more from Devin Williams and Luke Weaver at the back end, but going in with Bednar and Doval is also not a bad idea. These guys are former All-Stars also. So that's, again, you have a midseason deadline for that purpose to address those kind of needs. I think for this exercise, it's fine. It's not great. It's not elite, but you're hoping that by adding Tatsuya Imai to the mix, you have at least 3 pitchers that are going to carry you for a good portion of the first half of the season, where you're not tapping into your bullpen so early in the game. And I think that's kind of where you're thinking.
Yes, definitely that as well. I think the biggest thing that helps, something that would help the Yankees bullpen more than adding arms, is having better quality starters, continuing to improve that. Less tax on the bullpen keeps them fresher, injuries and just effectiveness and all that kind of stuff.
All righty, we're going to keep things going. And before we get to my side of the offseason agenda, Joe, let's take it away with the latest and greatest with YouTube. We already know one of the newest features added to YouTube.
Yes, we are live on Instagram and X, but YouTube is our preferred platform. Why? We can interact with you, the chat, here live on the show. So go over to YouTube, type in Empire State of Baseball, hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to share and like our videos, and help us to get to our next subscriber goal, which is 750. We're at 531 the last time I checked. So help us out. Keep that going up. And then hopefully we'll get to 750 and do another giveaway.
Excellent stuff there, Joe. All right, let's do it. It's the all-season agenda. Look at that handsome son of a bitch. Talking about Aaron Judge, of course. It's the all-season agenda. It's my version of this damn thing. And we're going to kick things off with my big move. And again, we alluded to this earlier. There was originally a different move made as of last night had to be changed out. And even though Joe found it to be very entertaining that I had to stick behind the laptop for those 2 hours to figure out how to readjust this offseason agenda. My original plan was to sign Josh Naylor and to a very similar contract to which he signed with Seattle. That obviously changed everything when Josh Naylor officially penned his deal. So, or at least pending physical. So we had a pivot, and we pivoted in a big way because we are going to stick with the original plan from the very beginning, and that is re-sign Cody Bellinger. Bringing Cody Bellinger back here on a 7-year, $210 million deal. That is $30 million on the nose year over year. We got a player option for year number 4. It's hard to, it's a big number. And I know people are going to look at the age. This is a guy who just turned 30. But for what Cody Bellinger fulfills and not knowing how the rest of this Yankees offseason is going to go, look, you're going to have an influx in the outfield. We know that for a fact, and that's Tom's lineup there. We know for a fact that there's an outfield position that needs to be filled. Whether the Yankees are going to entrust Jason Dominguez to take on a spot, Dominguez, Judge has the other corner, so center field / left field's in flux. First base, we really don't know if it's going to be the Ben Rice position, the Ben Rice show there. If they're going to move Ben Rice behind the plate. So there's an outfield position and a first base position in flux. It does make sense at the end of the day to try to bring back Cody Bellinger. And yes, I'm going to be Team Belly over Team Tucker. The Kyle Tucker move, folks, if we're going based off the math here, you sign Kyle Tucker, that's it. That's your offseason. I mean, it's a very similar situation. If you think about it, guys, it's very similar to the Juan Soto deal from last year. Juan Soto, if the Yankees end up signing Juan Soto, there's not much more the Yankees could have done to improve that team. At least there's a little bit of flexibility. There's at least I can feel like a $10 million difference between Cody and Kyle Tucker from an AAV standpoint. And listen, when we did this experiment, $10 billion, especially if you're trying to stay under $304 million, is a big number. So we're going with Cody Bellinger here to take on a position of either first base or center field. Now, if we move along, now Thomas kicked it off with the Stephen Kwan trade. I love that he did it. I also hated that he do it because I'm also trading for Stephen Kwan. And what are we trading Stephen Kwan for? Oh, we got 5 prospects going there, so it's a little bit bigger of a deal. But we also added a relief pitcher to this mix, someone who's on a veteran deal with the Cleveland Guardians there, and Steve Hentges. He's a left-handed pitcher. Actually, I'm not sure if that number is correct. I think he's not making $4 million. I think he's making more closer to 2. So that's a number that needed to be updated there. But Sam Hentges and Stephen Kwan headed to the Yankees. The Yankees are sending back Bryce Cunningham, their number 5 prospect, Eric Rauselman, TJ Rumfield, who are 2 Rule 5 eligible players. Will Warren's also going to be going in this deal to give the Guardians a major league starter off the rip. And instead of Spencer Jones, I got Jason Dominguez going into this deal. And here's the deal, folks. This is why I'm thinking Jason Dominguez is the guy to go in here. Not because I'm team Spencer Jones over Jason Dominguez. I'd rather have the somewhat more of a proven asset, I guess, in a way, because I don't know what Spencer Jones is going to be. He could be the strikeout king we've always been kind of talking about over these last couple of years, as long as his strikeout rate has been as up as it is. My thinking is, do the Cleveland Guardians need that type of player on that team? Is that going to be the attractive haul for the Cleveland Guardians to bring in Spencer Jones? Hell, if you look at the Guardians' top prospects, I'm going to read off some profiles here. I'm not even going to read numbers. Their top few prospects in their outfield: 6'3" left-handed hitter, 6'6" left-handed hitter, 6'3" left-handed hitter. They have 3 stocky left-handed power-hitting outfielders in their system. You really think they need Spencer Jones on top of all that? Or is Jason Dominguez simply just a better fit? He's played left field. He's got the protection of a big progressive field wall behind him. He's a switch hitter. He's a different profile hitter. So when thinking about this, it wasn't thinking about, okay, what makes more sense as far as a prospect goes. I was thinking, what makes more sense for a fit for Cleveland? That's actually a little bit more attractive. And I think Dominguez might actually be a more attractive piece going into this deal than Spencer Jones, just thinking of the needs of the Cleveland Guardians here. So this is my 5-for-2 trade. So we have 2 outfielders in the mix. So if Cody Bellinger's not playing first base, your outfield looks like Quan, Bellinger, and Aaron Judge from left to right. Pretty damn good outfield there. All right, we keep it moving here. We have an interesting move. Very interesting move here. Tom is keeping Austin Wells on his team. I am not. I'm actually moving on from Austin Wells because I think it's time that the Yankees, you got 2 left-handed hitters in my offseason game plan. We got to get a little bit more righty. So I'm shipping off one of the left-handed hitting catchers we have. Austin Wells, I got going to the Philadelphia Phillies at a straight-up deal for Orion Kikurin. Same money, same amount of control, but the Phillies are going to be without a catcher if they do not bring back Real Muto. And if you look at the Phillies system, they don't really have any catchers knocking on the door. They do have a couple of relievers in this kind of caliber, and Orion Kikurin, guys, if we remember from the National League Division Series, didn't really have a good finish to the Philadelphia Phillies season. And maybe that's the sort of player that needs to come out of Philadelphia after an embarrassing moment to end their season. So I got Orion Kikurin coming back here for Austin Wells in a 1-for-1 swap to add to the mid to back end of the bullpen. All right. So what are we doing at catcher then? Is Ben Rice going behind the plate? Or do we have somebody else in mind? We got somebody else in mind. Ben Rice is going to stay at first base. We have a catcher coming into play. It's going to be a right-handed hitting catcher from the Cincinnati Reds. Tyler Stevenson coming over to the New York Yankees. He's making $7 million in arbitration. The deal here is Brendan Beck and Yorvik Vivas going back in the deal here. Cincinnati's got some catchers that they can work with. They have our former catcher in Jose Trevino. Now, this is a sort of deal I'm pretty sure I'll probably get some criticism on. Maybe there's a little bit more we can send back to Cincinnati. Well, thank you, Josh Naylor, for signing late last night, so I had to come up with a different game plan here. If we have to add another prospect to this deal, then so be it. I'm willing to take that criticism. I have no issue with that. But I like the idea of Tyler Stevenson, and I would also shout out one of our good buddies, Craig, who comes through for a lot of the Yankee spaces, our ESPNYY spaces. He shouted this move out a couple of days ago, so I want to give him a lot of credit here. I was just trying to figure out, okay, what could be the potential move we do that? We get $7 million off of Cincinnati's books. We're taking Tyler Stevenson on to be our starting catcher, right-handed hitting catcher. All right. That's a lot, guys, right? I think we're done. No, we're not. We're not done. We still have another trade. Because I got a lot of prospects to move on. Because you know what I'm doing, guys? I'm saying fuck the prospects. Screw the
fuck them.
Let's just keep this train rolling. Let's get this train going.
Rich wants to run a train on these prospects.
Joe, what's your first and middle name?
Don't want to dodge Joe.
Oh, come on.
It's Joe Ryan, because we got Joe Ryan coming to the New York Yankees, folks. We're sending Bird, Chase Hampton, ERC, Brock Selvage. We're taking on that $6 million. And again, if I have to add another prospect to this, if I have to replace LaGrange for ERC, I will do it. I will make these trades happen because, guys, I'm signing Cody Bellinger at the end of the day. I have to live in the trade market a little bit if I'm going to have to do an offseason like this. So I'm going a little crazy here. We're going a little LI, I guess. We don't care about the future of this team. We're going whole about 2026 and hopefully just 2026 because I don't know how this team's going to survive beyond that. But this is what we got going on.
Survive after 2026, to be fair.
Probably not me. And certainly after this episode, I might be going to the ER. If we look at the rest of the field here for the Yankees transactions, we're cutting a little bit of bait. Now, this is how I kind of cheated a little bit. I took Scott Efros, Ian Hamilton, Mark Lattis. Boom, see it, non-tender, gone. All right, there's your re-signings in the middle, Yarbrough today. I also got a Rosario coming back, like the bench piece. I like the presence. I like him being that cheerleader, that male cheerleader at the end of the dugout. Really liked him. So we got a Rosario coming back 1 year, $3 million. I also got an outfield signing. Shout out to my friend Lindsay, Houston Astros fan. Also sent this as a possibility for the Yankees the other day. I listened, Lindsay. Chas McCormick, 1 year, $1 million. The Astros just cut him. I like McCormick's defensive metrics more over. I don't really care about the offense. He can bat $199. Just need the backup outfielder. So Chas McCormick's coming in the mix. And this is what the team looks like after it's all said and done, folks. Stephen Kwan leading off in left field. Judge second, right field. Ben Rice at first base, batting third. Cody Bellinger batting fourth. Perfect guy to have also, Cody Bellinger. He's so great against lefties. He's essentially a switch hitter. Batting fourth, center field. Giancarlo Stanton, 5, DH. Jazz, 6, second base. Tyler Stevenson, Ryan McMahon, Jose Caballero. Now, again, the criticism that I sent to Tom's way about Giancarlo Stanton. Now, listen, in the inevitable that Giancarlo Stanton hits the IL, listen, you can do this. This is easy, folks. You can take Giancarlo Stanton out of the mix. You can put Ben Rice there at DH. You could put all.
Plan.
This is not my plan. This is Tom's plan. We got to get my plan back up there. We got to get my plan back up there, folks. Listen, Giancarlo Stanton, he gets hurt. So be it. We'll see you. Ben Rice can slot there at the DH spot. And then we can bring in, we can have Ozzie play a little bit of first base if need be. Yes. Corey, Anthony Volpe. We're not forgetting about Anthony Volpe. He may be a part of this mix. Now, another guy that I did not trade in one of my last deals, If John Carlos Stanton goes down with injury, that's probably prime real estate for getting Spencer Jones up here and seeing what he could do here on the major league level. So I know that resides in AAA if we need to go to that. And hell, we never know Stanton's track record. We may go early as April, May when it comes to John Carlos Stanton. But this is the team. This is what we got cooked up. We did happen to stay under the 304. We were actually at 312 million after it all said and done. So after all that movement, a lot of stuff happening, a lot of trades, a lot of L.I.ing. Joe, you picked up a drink when you looked at this. Let's hear it.
All right, let's go back to that Joe Ryan trade. Can we go back to that for a second?
Yeah, we go ahead. Yeah, let's go to the Joe Ryan trade.
I need to know. So you're trading a middle reliever, in Jake Bird, and not one, two pitchers who had Tommy John surgery last year, and for Joe Ryan under 2 years of control. That is far-fetched.
Okay.
I mean, Hampton and Selvage don't even know if they can throw a ball again.
So, Joe, as my teammate here, what would you add to this deal to make it more enticing for Minnesota? Go ahead. Because this whoever you say, I'll probably be like, yeah, go for it. I'm down.
Elmer Cruz was definitely got to be in there. He's a top 100. You're gonna need two top 100 prospects. So you already traded LaGrange for Quan.
No, I didn't. I did not.
So LaGrange might have to be in there, or you're gonna have to put one of the kids in there in Lombard or Jones. I don't think the Yankees want to give up Lombard. You need something more because two of the pitchers have had Tommy John surgery in the last calendar year. They haven't pitched. So I can't put that trade in reality because 3/4 of that trade is crap.
I think the Joe Ryan trade would end up looking very similar, maybe a little discount off of the Garrett Crochet trade from last offseason. Right, I think Garrett Crochet was a little bit of a more sought after pitcher than Joe Ryan is.
Correct.
A little bit more. And just as a reminder,
correct.
Garrett Crochet was traded for Kyle Teal, who was the number 25 overall prospect in baseball. Braden Montgomery, the 54th overall prospect in baseball. Mm-hmm. And then the Red Sox 11th prospect and their 14th prospect.
So what if we look back
I think you need a big, I think a Lombard would have to go in the deal, and I'm not saying I'd be against it, but I think you need him, probably another big pitching prospect, and then you can start filling in a little bit of filler.
I would say in that regard, then we probably just swap Selvage out for Lombard, and if it was and Bird's more for the 40-man, so let's say it's Bird, Hampton, ERC, Lombard for Joe Ryan. Does that sound a little bit more congestible?
Selvage did pitch this year. I apologize.
He did.
I don't know if he was hurt either at the beginning or the end of the year, but I know he was hurt at some point.
Right. I think the good thing with this trade, though, again, let's assume you go in Lombard too, whatever it might be. The big thing here is that second year of control. It's not like you're going all in. Like a deadline deal for a rental, even a Screwball. There's I would absolutely love him on my team. There's always the risk you're decimating your farm for a 1-year wonder. At least with Ryan, you get the 2. So if you strike out year 1, you don't win a World Series, you got a second shot to do it with him next year. So if there was a guy to give up a little bit, it would be Ryan, just for that reason. You get that second year. I think that's such a big luxury as opposed to some of the other guys who would be available via trade.
I think it's going to be interesting in that market because Scooble Ray is a guy who everyone is thinking is going to be traded, especially if those reports are accurate that they're $200 million apart. And you think he's going to be the one to kind of set that trade market. And then it'll depend on their teams that just missed out on Scooble that really had competitive offers. Do they then try to turn to Joe Ryan? And what does that do for his market? It's going to be very interesting to see after, assuming Scooble goes first, what that could mean for the Ryan market. It could make it more expensive, could make it cheaper. It'll be interesting.
Offensively, I like Quan and Bellinger. I think that's exactly what they need to do. I think that when you talk about deepening and balancing the lineup, that's what, if you look at the way that lineup flows, you have a leadoff hitter followed by your power hitters, followed by a hitter and Cody Bellinger who can get on base and steal base. It lengthens the lineup. The catcher thing, I thought, I would think it would just be cheaper to sign a right-handed catcher to platoon with Austin Wells and call it a day there. I think that's what the Yankees need to do. You could get a right-handed hitted catcher that probably hits lefties decent for like $2 million, $3 million. I think they could save the prospect capital.
Well, moving Wells in that deal for Kerkering was my way to say, okay, I could stay out of the relief pitcher market that much, and that does make sense. Out of all the trades, I know there was a lot of craziness there, but out of all the trades I pulled off, I actually felt like the Wells Kerkering deal made a lot of sense.
It makes sense if the Phillies know they're not going to re-sign Realmuto or signs elsewhere. I think that trade makes a lot of sense. But again, you now have to execute both trades, right?
Correct.
Like you can't trade Wells without having acquired Stevenson first to do that.
Well, you could. I mean, you could execute the trade and think, okay, maybe it is Rice behind the plate, you know. And
I was going to say,
you do have that security, even if a Stevenson deal doesn't come through. Like I said, out of all the deals I made, that was the one where I was like, okay, that one I think I hit on. I wanted to ask about the Kwan thing because we saw earlier that Tom presented the Spencer Jones deal. He did Spencer Jones, Ben Hess, and Will Warren for Stephen Kwan. Got a little crazy with mine because we added an extra player, so I wanted to add 2 extra players in that mix. What was your thoughts on going the Dominguez route as opposed to the Spencer Jones route?
It's interesting.
Go ahead.
It's interesting. Yeah, I was to say, I think it's interesting. What I like about it is that in that in that Giancarlo Stanton situation where we're saying once he goes down, I really like the idea of then being able to go to that big bat who might be that next guy up to get the call. So from that standpoint, I love it. The thing is, you're shipping Dominguez over to Cleveland, and maybe he gets to, finally gets that chance to be the full-time center fielder like in the Tom plan. And if Dominguez is anything close to what they were projecting him to be, then that's a big loss. But again, it's a wild card factor. You don't know. And if you're a team that is trying to go for the World Series this year, that's the type of gambles you're going to have to take. You might have to give up a guy who's a little bit of a uncertainty what his potential is going to be for more of a proven commodity. The proven commodity in this case being Bellinger in center field. So it's interesting. It's very interesting.
If I know this guy right here is coming back, this guy Kwan, who I called today an anti-Yankee because he does not fit the Yankee model of what a successful hitter has been for the last few years, because he's a leadoff hitter. He's a scrappy hitter. He's stealing bases. He's playing great defense. He's not what the Yankees are used to. I want that guy. And if the Guardians are
much better Brett Gardner,
100%. And if the Guardians are coming back and saying, hey, it's Dominguez we want, take him. If it's Jones we want, take him. I'm just looking at what do they have in the pipeline already. Does Jones make sense for that notion? Tom?
I hear what you're saying with that. What they have in the system and the size and all that. I think prospects are assets, and I think a team wouldn't not make a trade for someone if they thought Jones was a better asset. Jones could also play first, and I know they might have stuff going on there, but I still think he could fit in to that role. Dominguez also, I know, like I said, I want him attached to the hip with Bernie Williams in the spring. He's also basically just a lefty hitter because he was horrendous hitting righty. So he might also just be a lefty if that could be part of people's offseason agendas is, hey, you stop hitting righty and you only hit lefty moving forward. And yeah, he's just done it on the major league level. It'd be interesting to see what Cleveland wants. Cleveland's needs are always so interesting because they're still right there, right? They still made the playoffs last year, even though it kind of took a miracle run and a collapse for the Tigers to do it. But what are they after is always the question, and the kind of moves they make are always very interesting. I just think what they've needed for a long time is a true thumper in that lineup. They kind of had it with Josh Naylor, then they moved on from him. I think Jones obviously profiles more as that thumper. It's more of a risk. It's a higher, potentially higher floor in that regard, lower or lower floor, higher ceiling. If you want just a true like, hey, this guy might hit 40 homers. And I think that's something they've always missed. They've always been so scrappy, and I think they had those scrappy players. Granted, we're trading for the scrappiest of the scrappy players in Steven Kwan, but you kind of add in that power to go with that. I think it's a good move. Now, would I do my trade if I just swap them? I think that'd be interesting. Probably so. It's just like Corey said, and this is where like the prospect hugging like comes into play. We've just been told so much about Dominguez. We've seen some of it, and I'm ready to trade any other Yankee prospect. I'll trade Lombard. I'll trade Jones. I'll trade LaGrange. But the Dominguez, I still want to give that chance. So again, he didn't play for like 7 weeks of like major league action. He was healthy. He was just sitting the bench, and then in Game 4 of the ALDS in the 8th inning, rips the double. First major league pitch he's seen in so long, and he just showed that like has such a talent for hitting that I just don't want to give up on that yet.
I wanted to address this last comment here from Jacob Petruzzi, still a bit lefty heavy. I'll tell you, throughout this experiment, and I don't know if Tom, if you saw kind of a similar thing, it was really hard to do all this, balance the lineup righty lefty, and then stay under budget. For at least the sake of Cody Bellinger, I don't profile him as a left-handed hitter because he hits lefties so freaking well.
Yeah, he's the best lefty hitting lefty in Major League Baseball.
Right. He's essentially a switch hitter. And then what other lefties we're talking about? Steven Kwan hits everybody. You know, Ben Rice, sure. In certain matchups, it's not going to work out. Jazz, certainly. Ryan McMahon, absolutely. But we tried to get as balanced as possible. It's still really tough. It's just you're still playing around with the realistic construction of the Yankees. I'm not going to go out and trade away Jazz because I don't want Jazz in the team anymore. I'm not trying to trade Ryan McMahon. You know, we're still in a world where Anthony Volpe will most likely come back midseason and occupy shortstop. Meanwhile, it should just be Caballero the whole way. It was tough.
And listen, if the Yankees are going to go one way or the other, being more lefty heavy or righty heavy, last time I checked, they still have the short porch, and it's still really 100%. Good to have lefties hitting Yankee Stadium. It still is a good thing to have. And I'll take my chances with them. I think my lineup ended up being a little bit more balanced lefty righty than yours did, but I agree. It was there was a challenge to it because of kind of what they have and what moves were out there. And again, the Yankees, they don't have as much flexibility if they want to stay under that number. And the guys you want to go after, I think right, we started by saying this is fun, right? So the one criticism, Rich, of your plan is it's pretty wild. There's a lot of moves happening, but we're not saying this is what we're projecting or predicting. This is what we would like to see happen. So
this is this is a realistic plan to propose to the brass. That's how I've kind of promoted that.
And I will say now, if that's your take, it's a realistic plan. I don't know if it is a realistic plan because I think there's a lot. I mean, you basically have traded your entire.
Well, I also will say this though, but I kind of push back though, and I think you somewhat agree. If you're going to go down the route of re-signing a Cody Bellinger, either you have to live on the trade market for other upgrades, or you're going bargain bin.
I would love. Listen, I've been saying it all year, and I want to continue saying it next year into the future. I would trade a ton of guys, especially the Yankees 100%. Have proven that they have not been able to produce major league hitters. They've failed at that.
This is Operation Fuck Them Kids.
Yeah,
fuck them kids. Get me a ring.
My point being, the criticism I think of your plan will be it's not realistic. But again, that wasn't necessarily the exact goal. I think this is a very good team. It's a lot of moving pieces, and I think especially with some of these trades that are very
100%.
You know, you like a Joe Ryan and a Steven Kwan trade aren't going to happen like the Wells Kirkland or Kirkland trade.
Can I just
that can happen? That can happen in 2 phone calls.
I also have to interject here because I feel like I'm getting gained. But meanwhile, my biggest signing happened last night at 9:30 at night.
Well,
so
listen, I told you last
week
that was a bad move. So that's what you get for trying to sign Josh Naylor.
That world, by the way, folks, was Bellinger doesn't resign. You sign Josh Naylor and you sign Harrison Bader.
Yeah. So I guess my point being that I was trying to get to is a Quan trade and a Joe Ryan trade are going to be complicated. Those are both some of the hottest names on the trade market. They're going to take a long time to figure out. And I think they're going to be happening around the same time. And I don't think the Yankees could realistically do both moves, because what if if you pull those trades up, what if the Twins are like, we actually want one of those pitching prospects, and then you're like, okay, well now I'm talking to Cleveland, I'm trying to, so then you're switching guy. I think that becomes very complicated and unrealistic, but that's just the process of making these big prospect trades. I like the plan. I'd be happy with it, but that's kind of where I land on the realistic part of it. It'd be hard logistically to do.
We had fun. I had an unfair circumstance come up last night where I had to revise everything. So for those that are going to crush me for this, go fuck yourself. How about that? All right. So let's end it from that point on. We're going to shout out our socials. For those who aren't following our socials already, Corey Favs, what's the latest and greatest on Instagram?
Go ahead and follow us at Empire State of Baseball on Instagram. You'll find our archive segments, episode previews, meme reels, graphics, you name it, you'll find it on the gram. You can even watch the live stream. Again, we have this new little live stream feature going on tonight. We'll see what the deal is going forward. But again, if you're watching us on Instagram, thank you. We really appreciate it. Go over to YouTube. It's a better experience overall. We love to interact with you. We don't really see your live comments in the show on the gram. So go on YouTube. But if you are watching us there, thank you. We do appreciate it. We're at 7,900 followers and hoping to get to that 8K mark soon. So now, again, Empire State of Baseball, go ahead and give us that follow.
Yep, absolutely appreciate you, Corey Favs. All your work is very much appreciated. And yes, I got some comments about the new view with all the graphics. I know it looked like shit tonight, but we'll figure it out. Make sure to give us a follow on X as well.
For sure, they weren't just talking about that initial graphic. Does it look like shit, or is it other graphics?
I mean, listen, Tom, I look great. I'm not gonna talk about your.
Let's just start calling you Saddam.
Well, there you go. So I am Saddam. Nice to meet you all.
Rivera.
Make sure to give Saddam a follow on X at Rich J Rivera. Give Corey a follow at Corey Favs, Joe at JR Pugs, Tom at T Wospil. Make sure to give our subsidiaries a follow at ESPNYM. At ESPNYY. We have a Bronx Take live on a Monday weekly basis, so make sure to tune in, 1 o'clock, hosted by me, Sierra, and Chris. And make sure to tune in tomorrow, because we are back for another off-season edition of the OSAs for the Mets. And so Joe and Corey are going to step in there. Come on, man. You can't do that in the middle of my exit. So
do whatever I want.
But listen, we're changing things up this year. It's not just Joe and not just Corey that can propose their plans. We have another member of Empire State of Baseball that is also going to propose his plan. We got Mr. Keefe as well. So there you go. For tomorrow's episode number 149, make sure to tune in 8 o'clock on X, Instagram, and YouTube, where Corey, Joe, and Keefe will present their New York Mets off-season agenda. Well, that's it, folks. Another edition of ESB in the books. We'll see you tomorrow night. And also, we'll be live for extra innings for a few minutes, so make sure to come through over on X at ESB Podcast so we can continue the fun there. All righty, let's send it around the room for last licks. Corey, Favs, Joe, Tom, take it away.
I hope no grounding.
Tune in tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't know what Corey just said. It sounded like he was underwater. A lot of fun. Hope you guys have fun with it tomorrow.
Yep, great time. Be nice to each other on during this Thanksgiving season. That's all I got. That's all my message is. We'll see you tomorrow. All season agenda part 2. Take care.